Today, we're gonna go over the top 10 best-selling comic books of all time. Stick around.
DJ Links is in the building.
Before we continue on, make sure you head on over to thecomicshelf.com and pick up your comic shell. It is the ultimate carrying case for your raw and slab comics. It fits about 20 raw books or 2 slabs comfortably. This is the only carrying case that you'll catch me at a con with. Head on over to thecomicshelf.com and use code LINKSQUAD for 10% off your order. What's going on, everybody? It's your boy DJ Links, back in the building, back in effect, and back with another video. And today we'll be going over the best-selling comic books of all time. No, this is not the comic books that sold for the most amount of money. This is just the best-selling comic books of all time. A friend of mine was having a conversation about this recently, and I said, you know what? That's a video. So here we are, the top 10 best-selling comic books of all time. Let's go. At number 10, we have Batman, the 10-Cent Adventure #1 from 2002 with 702,126 copies sold. As the comic's title promised, this Batman one-shot costs only 10 cents an issue. The single issue, created by Greg Rucka and Rick Burchett, features Bruce Wayne on a date with his bodyguard Sasha Bordeaux, who is trying to help him overcome his breakup with Vespa Fairchild. It all seems quiet and normal for a Batman story until Bruce and Sasha return to Wayne Manor to find Vesper's dead body, and the GCPD immediately arrests them both. This shocking one-shot was a prequel to the Bruce Wayne murderer storyline, where the Bat family helps solve this murder mystery and find the real killer. At number 9, we have Fantastic Four #60 from 2002 with 752,699 copies sold. Mark Waid and Mike Wieringo reintroduced Marvel's first family, the Fantastic Four, through the point of view of their new PR manager. The manager, Mr. Scherzer, is tasked by the Fantastic Four's advertising department to help boost the superhero team's failing public image. Mr. Scherzer spends an entire week with the Four as they go through life, fight crime, and struggle with their personal problems. This issue is seen as a return to form for the Fantastic Four, as they are presented less as superheroes and more like a group of friends who became family after a series of unfortunate cosmic events. Selling more than 700,000 copies means that there is still a demand to see the Fantastic Four presented as a relatable humans first and gaudy super celebrities second. At number 8, we have Marvel Comics #1 from 1939 with 880,000 copies sold. The first issue of Marvel Comics was published by Timely Comics, later known as the Marvel Entertainment Company fans know today. This comic, written and drawn by Carl Burgos, introduces the world to Marvel's first superpowered beings, including the Human Torch. However, this isn't the Johnny Storm Fantastic Four versions fans know and love, but rather an android with free will created by Dr. Phineas Horton during World War II. This comic also introduces fans to characters such as Khazar the Great and the Submariner, Namor. A great start for Marvel Comics. At number 7, we got Star Wars #1 from 2015 with 1,073,000 copies sold. Jason Aaron and John Cassaday worked together with Marvel Comics to create this continuation of the original 1977 Star Wars. This best-selling first issue takes fans through the events after Luke Skywalker destroys the Death Star and the Empire is after him and his allies. This story features Luke, Leia, Han Solo, Chewie, C-3PO, and R2-D2 working to free innocents from the Empire until they are intercepted by Darth Vader. This comic was released in January 2015, the same year Star Wars The Force Awakens arrived in December, and Star Wars fans were ready to celebrate. This new wave of Star Wars comics, meant to flesh out the original trilogy characters, work wonders for comic sales. At number 6, we have Spawn #1 from 1992 with 1,700,000 copies sold. Todd McFarlane makes his childhood dream anti-hero a reality in one of the biggest comic book debuts ever. Spawn #1, published by Image Comics, instantly sold more than 1 million copies at launch. The story begins with Spawn struggling to remember his past life as Al Simmons while killing criminals with his demonic abilities given to him by the King of Hell, Malebolgia. Spawn's debut did big business for Hollywood with the release of the 1997 Spawn HBO series, which was dope, and a live-action film, which was trash. With the Spawn reboot movie in production, this Necro Demon proves that fans are always ready to support a new and edgy superhero. At number 5, we have Spider-Man #1 from 1990 with 2,500,000 copies sold. Todd McFarlane is best known for being the official artist behind the symbiote villain anti-hero Venom, and he had been working for Marvel on Spider-Man comics since the late 1980s. 1990 Spider-Man #1, showing Spider-Man tangled in a giant web of spiders, has become an iconic piece of Marvel artwork. The comic story features Peter Parker enjoying his marriage with MJ and life as Spider-Man while about to do battle with his old foe, the Lizard. This comic was McFarlane's opportunity to give Spider-Man fans a darker storyline involving a returning villain, Calypso, controlling the Lizard to commit murder. At number 4, we have Superman #75 from 1993 with 3 million copies sold. In this heartbreaking issue, DC's newest supervillain Doomsday does the impossible and kills the Man of Steel. 1993 Superman #75 by Dan Jurgens and Brett Breeding features the climatic battle between the Justice League and the indestructible Doomsday. The entire world, including the Daily Planet's Lois Lane and Jimmy Olsen, watches as the last line of defense, Superman, fights Doomsday, with their battle shaking the earth itself. However, the monster proves too much for the Man of Steel, and one final dual punch takes out both Superman and Doomsday. The splash page of Lois cradling Superman's dead body, the tattered red cape, the bloody S variant cover live forever in comic book history as the day when the greatest superhero in fiction was actually killed. Or was he? At number 3, we have The Adventures of Superman #500 from 1993 with 4,200,000 copies sold. Less than a year after the death of Superman, DC Comics set the pieces up for the resurrection of Superman. This milestone 500th issue by Jerry Ordway and Tom Grummett sees Jonathan Kent have a heart attack, and while at the hospital, he sees his son Clark in the afterlife. After having a literal tug of war for Clark's soul against Jor-El, Jonathan snaps out of his coma and tells Martha Kent that their son is alive. To add to the drama, Superman's body is missing from his coffin, leading to 4 different Supermen claiming to be the Man of Steel: the Metropolis Kid, John Henry Irons aka Steel, the last son of Krypton, and Hank Henshaw / Cyborg Superman debuted in this issue, launching the infamous Reign of Supermen storyline. At number 2, we have X-Force #1 from 1991 with 5 million copies sold. The second best-selling comic book of all time rebooted the New Mutants into X-Force with their own solo series. X-Force #1 by Fabian Nicieza and Rob Liefeld features the mutants Cable, Domino, Shatterstar, Feral, Boom Boom, Cannonball, and Warpath battling the dangerous Mutant Liberation Front. Cable formed X-Force to keep the New Mutants united as a ruthless task force that had no rules or regulations like the X-Men. The team would eventually cross paths with the Externals, the Brotherhood of Mutants, and have an eternal love-hate relationship with Deadpool. Selling more than 5 million copies, X-Force #1 was one of the first big changes to the X-Men 1990s lineup. However, the biggest change to the X-Men will come just a few months later. And coming in at number 1, X-Men #1 from 1991 with 8,186,500 copies sold. The highest selling comic book issue of all time is 1991's X-Men #1 by the legendary Chris Claremont and Jim Lee. This new era comic introduced 2 new X-teams while featuring Magneto recruiting mutants to his Asteroid M project and introducing fans to the Acolytes, Magneto's rabid supporters. This issue would remain a timeless classic as the beginning of the end for Chris Claremont's 16-year career on the X-Men series. Selling more than 8 million copies, the 2 X-Men teams battling Magneto and the Acolytes is a huge thank you for X-Men fans after a wonderful ride with Chris Claremont. With 3 million more copies sold than the second highest selling comic book, this issue set a high bar that publishers like DC, Marvel, or Image Comics will have a tough time surpassing. And those are the top 10 highest selling comic books of all time. Let me know down in the comments, was any of those books a surprise to you, or did you know from the jump like X-Men #1 was gonna be #1? I was actually surprised when I looked up that list that X-Force #1 was the number 2 highest selling comic of all time. I'm a big fan of the 90s, so X-Men #1, X-Force #1, and that Spider-Man #1 are all on my favorite comic books of all time list, so I was happy to see them get some love here on this top 10 best-selling comic books of all time. And that's gonna do it for me, ladies and gentlemen. As always, subscribe, like, hit that notification bell, share this video, tell your friends about me, consider joining the Link Squad, and as always, most importantly, spread love because it's the Brooklyn way. Peace.